Hello there. Are you tucked in tonight? Close your eyes, just for a moment. Let the hush of the dark cradle you like an old lullaby, the kind that echoes through candlelit castles and mossy stone walls. Tonight's tale isn't about dragons or dashing knights. It's something slower, softer. Tonight, we wandered back through time, back to when love was handwritten in Latin and sealed with wax, when silk veils fluttered in drafty halls and hearts were rarely consulted on matters of marriage. This was love in medieval times, a story woven from duty, whispered secrets, and the gentle rustle of parchment pages no one's opened in centuries. You'll meet noble daughters promised before they could read, peasants with practical hearts, monks with quiet longings, and troubadours who rhymed heartbreak into verse. There's nothing fast or fiery here, only the slow, steady ache of affection shaped by ritual, silence, and sacrifice. So snuggle close to your pillow and drift with me into candlelit chambers and cloistered gardens. We'll explore a world where love meant letters never sent, and dreams that dared not speak their names. Long before the first blush of young affection had a chance to bloom, the wheels of matrimony were already turning in medieval society. Love, in its romantic form, rarely dictated who married whom. Instead, families orchestrated unions like grand chess moves. Every betrothal a calculated alliance, every bride a strategic piece placed on the board of inheritance and legacy. In noble households, daughters were promised to future husbands while still in their cradle. Fathers negotiated dowries like trade deals. Land, livestock, and political favor often mattered more than personality or affection. A girl might be formally spoken for at age 7, her marriage contract sealed by wax and witness. The concept of consent, as modern minds understand it, had little footing in this parchment-bound world. These arrangements weren't exclusive to royalty. Merchant classes followed suit, ensuring their wealth stayed within familiar circles. Even peasant families, though less burdened by legal formalities, relied on community traditions and practical needs. Love was simply not a required ingredient in the recipe for lifelong partnership. Yet amid this tight web of duty, small glimmers of human emotion peeked through. A stolen glance at a betrothal ceremony, a whispered word exchanged behind a barn wall. Young brides to-be penned careful hopes into the margins of their prayer books, daydreaming of kindness, perhaps even love, from their future spouse. Marriage wasn't just a union of hearts, it was a fusion of families, fortunes, and reputations. In this chapter of history, to be married was to be positioned, and often that position came with expectations far too heavy for the age of the bride. Once the marriage was arranged and the ink had dried, one institution stood vigilant between man, woman, and any notion of affection. Its teachings cast a long shadow over medieval love, elevating spiritual purity above earthly pleasure. Desire, even within marriage, walked a narrow path bounded by sin, penance, and confession. Clerics preached that marriage's primary purpose was procreation, not joy, companionship, or romance. Physical intimacy, though tolerated, was often treated as a concession to human weakness. Husbands and wives were advised to approach their wedding beds with solemnity, avoiding pleasure for its own sake. Feast days, fasting periods, and holy seasons provided frequent and extended bans on marital relations. Passion was scheduled or postponed indefinitely. Confessionals echoed with whispered guilt about excessive affection, a term as vague as it was damning. Church manuals catalogued permissible behaviors in meticulous sleep-inducing detail. One notable guide even warned against kissing one's spouse during intercourse, lest the soul be led astray by sensual pleasure. Yet, contradictions bloomed in sacred corners. Saints wrote of divine ecstasy that mirrored romantic longing. Certain monasteries quietly tolerated affectionate bonds between brothers and sisters in faith. Love, though tightly reined, could not be fully banished. It slipped between sermons, lingered in psalms, and nestled into candlelit prayers offered for another's well-being. In this world, hearts were not free agents. They were steered by scripture, bridled by law, and occasionally, quietly, steered off course by longing too persistent to ignore. In the medieval world, love seldom stood alone. It arrived, wrapped in parchment, stamped by seals, and accompanied by ledgers that told the true tale of every union, who brought what, and who owed whom. A marriage wasn't simply a personal affair. It was a financial contract, a transfer of wealth, responsibility, and legacy. The dowry, A bride's price paid by her family could include land, livestock, textiles, or coin. A generous dowry elevated a woman's desirability. The more she came with, the more alliances she secured. In turn, the groom often offered a bride price or a mourning gift, a token of financial commitment after the wedding. Noble families maintained detailed records of these exchanges. Contracts were drawn up, witnessed, and archived. They outlined inheritance clauses, succession rights, and stipulations for widowhood. If love fluttered at the edge of such dealings, it was never named in the margins. Romance was optional. Property was essential. Even in less formal pairings among merchants or villagers, expectations lingered. A father might pass a cow to his daughter's new household, or grant a portion of land, ensuring that economic stability, not emotional whim, anchored the marriage. Behind the smiles of wedding feasts, the jingling of coin and clatter of penned agreements echoed louder than any love song. Sentiment was subdued. Sustainability reigned supreme. Yet, curiously, some couples grew fond after these transactional beginnings. Affection bloomed beside bean fields and market stalls, sometimes slowly, sometimes sweetly. But in every case, love had to work its way around the numbers. In the upper echelons of medieval society, marriage wasn't merely an exchange of vows, it was a geopolitical maneuver. Thrones trembled and borders shifted because of nuptials arranged across kingdoms. Love, if it appeared at all, came as an afterthought. Royal weddings often marked treaties. A princess from Castile might be pledged to a French duke, not for affection, but to prevent bloodshed. Such unions were signed with ink and sword. The bride, veiled and obedient, stood as living parchment to cement fragile peace. Her happiness was unrecorded, her political value measured in territory and troops. Age differences mattered little. A boy king at 12 could wed a mature foreign noblewoman. Her wisdom sought more than her companionship. These marriages brought power, legitimacy, and heirs, but rarely intimacy. Grand ceremonies masked quiet disappointment. Behind embroidered tunics and towering cakes sat awkward strangers, bound for life by politics. In letters and chronicles, noble couples appeared together at coronations, battles, and births, yet rarely in moments of tenderness. Their lives split between councils and courts, separate quarters, separate confidants. A queen might spend more time with her ladies-in-waiting than with the man she vowed to honor. And still, within this cold diplomacy, stories occasionally surfaced. A king who grew fond of his queen's courage, a duchess who admired her husband's poetry. Small flickers in rooms built, not for love, but legacy. But for most, their marriages were maps, drawn by others, followed dutifully. And love, if it existed, had to tiptoe behind duty and decorum, far from the stone halls of nobility and the incense-sweetened shadows of cathedrals. Love among medieval peasants bloomed with quiet practicality. Life was hard, short, and often muddy, but there was space, now and then, for affection to tiptoe in. Marriages in the village were less about strategy, more about survival. Families still had a say. Fathers exchanged goats, blankets, or a patch of barley field to seal their children's futures, but the stakes were simpler. A good match meant shared labor, a sturdy roof, and children to help tend the hearth. Yet even in these modest homes, hearts stirred. Young folk met at market stalls, during festivals, or in the rhythm of shared chores. They spoke through glances, flirted with flowers, sang ballads over cider mugs, and stole time in haylofts when no one was watching. Many couples knew one another before marriage. Courtship, though brief, allowed for familiarity. A smile across the well, a shared loaf, a woven token tucked into an apron. These small gestures sketched love with gentle strokes. The church still laid its heavy hand here too, insisting on formal blessings and moral behavior, but peasants found quiet ways to navigate around it. Their weddings were modest, hand-fasting in fields, blessings outside tiny chapels, celebrations with bread and dancing more than silver and silk. And afterward, life pressed in. Children came. Winters grew cold, hens escaped. Yet some couples, bound more by cooperation than coercion, found comfort in their shared burdens. In this world, love wasn't grand. It was useful, tender, and stitched into daily survival. It bloomed in milking sheds and faded sometimes in famine, but when it lasted, it did so gently, like moss on stone. step into the velvet-draped world of courtly love, a medieval invention, as theatrical as it was unattainable. This was affection dressed in metaphor, paraded through lyric, and performed more than felt. It flourished in aristocratic courts, where lovers rarely touched but often wrote, dreamt, and despaired. Troubadours, poetic knights, and well-read ladies kept the tradition alive. Love here was idealized, always distant, often unrequited, and preferably painful. A nobleman might pledge his heart to a married lady of higher status, writing endless rhyme stanzas in her honor while never daring to approach her. His suffering became noble, his restraint divine. These poems danced between adoration and agony. Thy eyes pierce me like the lance, yet my lips dare not advance. Sigh. Courtly love was a game, but it had rules. The lover must be humble, devoted, and patient. The beloved must remain cold, unattainable, and beautiful. Passion was permitted, but only within the imagination. To confess love, openly, scandalous. To consummate it, disastrous. Ladies played their part with They read verses in rose gardens, exchanged ribbons, and sometimes replied with cryptic compliments, but they rarely abandoned their station or vows. The thrill came from the ache, not the embrace. This theatrical affection also bled into culture. Romantic ideals from troubadour songs shaped literature, behavior, and even knighthood. The chivalrous lover became a recurring figure, hopeless, poetic, and perpetually on the edge of heartbreak. In short, courtly love was a performance, beautiful to read, difficult to live, and perfect for late-night sighing and solitude. In the flickering shadows of medieval life behind chapel walls, castle gates, and thatched roofs, love sometimes refused to behave. Despite the sermons, contracts, and codes of conduct, desire found hidden passageways. It slipped through locked doors, smuggled itself into glances, and kindled forbidden flames that burned hotter for their secrecy. Adultery was perilous. The church condemned it with fierce clarity, and secular law often punished it with public shaming, exile, or worse. A lady caught with a stable boy might lose her status. A knight lured by a married noblewoman could find himself stripped of land or title. Yet still, the risks did little to extinguish yearning. Secret rendezvous became the stuff of gossip and legend. Lovers met under moonlight in gardens, scribbled, coded notes tucked into prayer books, or shared brief touches behind heavy tapestries. These stolen moments, though fleeting, pulsed with intensity, part fantasy, part rebellion. Clerics, too, were not immune. Though sworn to celibacy, historical records speak of monks and priests who maintained quiet liaisons, even fathering children behind monastery walls. Nuns exchanged letters with suitors, and some were punished harshly when their secrets surfaced. The aristocracy played its own dangerous games. Royal courts teemed with intrigues, took lovers. Kings kept and courtiers danced delicately between loyalty and lust. Political marriages led many nobles to seek affection elsewhere, cultivating webs of relationships that blurred moral lines. Despite the peril, forbidden love carved out its own corner of medieval reality. It was reckless, secretive, and often tragic, but in a world bound by duty, it offered fleeting liberation. And while it didn't rewrite society's rules, it certainly ignored them, one breathless encounter at a time. In medieval society, virginity wasn't merely personal, it was public, prized, and profoundly transactional. A woman's sexual purity symbolized honor, lineage, and even property rights. Before a marriage could be sanctified, her chastity was often scrutinized more than her character, intellect, or affection. Among the nobility, a virgin bride ensured the legitimacy of heirs. Her untouched status guaranteed that any children born of the union carried her husband's bloodline undisputed. Thus, fathers guarded daughters' reputations like treasure, and prospective husbands often demanded witnesses or formal oaths verifying purity. Chivalric tales and religious texts alike romanticized virginity as sacred. Maidens were portrayed as closer to God, unblemished by worldly desire. Saints like Agnes or Cecilia became icons of spiritual and bodily chastity, praised for their refusal to marry Yvonne under threat of violence. But this ideal came with heavy burdens. Young women were constantly monitored, chaperoned in public, secluded in private, and rarely allowed to express personal desire. A single rumor of impropriety could ruin prospects. A kiss, a letter, or even laughter with a man could provoke suspicion. Some communities developed rituals to prove virginity ranging from symbolic garments to medical myths about physical signs of purity. While most lacked scientific merit, their social power was immense. The bride's white gown, still echoed in modern weddings, first symbolized this medieval valuation of innocence. Interestingly, purity held less sway for men. Male premarital experience was sometimes tolerated, even expected. The double standard thrived. Women were judged by restraint, men by conquest. Still, love found a way. In quiet gardens and whispered exchanges, some couples embraced mutual tenderness despite the rules, and over time, even the rigid ideals of virginity slowly yielded to more human truths: connection, care, and compassion. Within the high stone walls of medieval monasteries, where devotion was measured in candlelight and silence, love was meant to be forsaken. Monks and nuns vowed chastity, embracing solitude over companionship and prayer over passion. Yet even behind cloistered gates, the human heart stirred. Life in religious orders was rigid. Daily rhythms followed. Walls separated men from women. Windows were latticed. Letters were censored. Yet proximity to divine beauty sometimes kindled unexpected emotion. A gentle voice during Vespers, a shared glance across the chapel, a touch of kindness intending the sick. These quiet moments nurtured a longing no rule could erase. There are records subtle and scarce of nuns who wrote poetry rich with yearning. Monks composed verses that blurred the line between spiritual ecstasy and romantic love. In illuminated margins, initials appeared, cryptic tributes to someone seen only briefly. Confessors sometimes heard tales of forbidden affection between those vowed to chastity. Punishments followed, but rarely erased the memory. One famous story tells of, say, an Abelard, a scholar and nun whose letters remain among the most heartbreaking and tender exchanges of medieval love. Their affair, both intellectual and physical, defied the Church's strict boundaries and ended in tragedy, but their words endured, echoing the ache of love restrained by vows. In many cloisters, love became metaphor. The soul was the bride of Christ. Emotional longing was redirected into divine adoration. But even in such sacred sublimation, the human capacity for affection could not be fully banished. It lingered in hymns, in gestures, and in dreams unspoken. So in cloistered halls where footsteps echoed and voices rarely rose above whispers, love lived quietly, sometimes holy, sometimes human. In the hush that follows mourning, medieval widows stood at a unique crossroads, caught between grief, duty, and the faint possibility of renewal. Whether dressed in black or draped in silence, they walked paths shaped by religion, reputation, and deeply ingrained social expectations. Widowhood was common. Wars, plagues, and difficult childbirth rendered many women alone at young ages. The Church encouraged solemn reflection, urging widows to devote themselves to prayer rather than seek new companionship. Remarriage, though permitted, was sometimes discouraged, especially among older or wealthier women whose estates might complicate inheritance lines. Yet despite these pressures, second marriages did occur. Widows with wealth or land could become desirable, particularly in noble circles, where political advantage still governed romantic decisions. In villages and towns, a widowous experience, an established household, often made her an appealing partner for practical men in search of stability. But real love could bloom here, too. Freed from the constraints of youthful betrothal and family arrangement, some widows finally had a voice in choosing their partners. Letters revealed moments of tenderness, quiet proposals, shared memories, and gentle courtships rooted not in obligation, but mutual respect. Still, risks lingered. Society judged remarried widows differently. Rumors could spread quickly. Children from a previous union complicated loyalties, and grief, always present, shadowed new beginnings with caution and care. Some widows chose not to remarry at all. They ran their households, managed estates, or joined religious orders. In these quiet roles, they found independence rare in their time. Others embraced second chances, grateful for the companionship they were denied in youth. And so, in the soft twilight of medieval marriage, love sometimes returned slower, wiser, and touched by loss. A reminder that hearts, even when marked by sorrow, often still seek warmth. In the candlelit corners of medieval life, where science danced cautiously with myth, love potions offered a shortcut past patience. For hearts too timid to speak, too bound by duty to pursue freely, Magic became a messenger, whether brewed by hedge witches or whispered among healers. Potions and charms fluttered through folklore with the promise of passion. The ingredients were humble and often earthy. Rosemary, for remembrance and attraction; basil, believed to stir affection when worn near the heart; honey, infused with herbs to sweeten someone's feelings; bee pollen, whispered to hold persuasive energy. More curious recipes included ground bird bones, crushed pearls, or drops of animal blood, all meant to enchant or bind the beloved. Moon phases dictated brewing times. Some believed a potion stirred beneath a waxing moon harnessed growing love. A waning moon, waning interest. Love charms, too, found popularity. Knotted ribbons, coins passed hand to hand, or apples carved with initials and buried at crossroads, was said to spark passion or strengthen bonds. A kiss taken with a sprig of mistletoe, a plant sacred to Druidic Loros, rumored to seal desire. Yet the church frowned on such practices, branding many as witchcraft or paganism. Potion makers walked fine lines, healers in one moment, heretics in another. Still, tales of enchanted brews persisted, passed from mothers to daughters, scribbled into margins of herbal books, and sung softly during festivals. Were they effective? No, scroll confirms. But in a time when emotion was silenced by duty, these humble rituals gave hope, a whispered maybe in a world that rarely allowed love to speak freely. Love may have lit the fire, but in many parts of history, marriage was paperwork before passion. Beneath the flutter of wedding veils lay detailed agreements, land, livestock, lineage, and loyalty, all carefully negotiated. Here's how love got legally bound. Betrothal contracts. Families arranged unions with written promises, often long before the couple met. These spelled out dowries, inheritance, rights, and family obligations. Dowries and bride prices. A bride's family might offer land, coins, or animals to the groom's family, or vice versa, to seal the union. These weren't buying love, but securing alliances. Marriage licenses. In some cultures, couples had to pay fees or register their union publicly, ensuring the church or crown had oversight. Noble nuptials. Among aristocracy, marriage negotiations resembled political treaties. Love was ideal, but legacy was paramount. Divorce, tricky. Many societies discouraged or outright banned separation. Where it was allowed, rules often favored men or required intense arbitration. Women sometimes turned to ecclesiastical courts or poetic lament to protest unfair marriages. Legal texts survive, showing that even centuries ago, people grappled with balancing affection and obligation. One medieval document charmingly reads, "Let there be kindness as much as contracts." Not all love was welcomed. Across eras and empires, desire often collided with law, class, and custom, especially when lovers dared step beyond boundaries drawn by tradition or decree. Here's where passion turned perilous. Taboo relationships. Love across social classes, religions, or races was commonly condemned. A noble falling for a servant, a Christian for a Muslim, or a free soul for an enslaved heart. Many such bonds had to be hidden, denied, or tragically severed. Secret marriages. Lovers sometimes wed in secret, without church approval or family blessing. Hidden ceremonies, forged documents, or whispered vows under moonlight gave rise to many legends. Love letters as lifelines. With meetings forbidden, letters became the heartbeat of secret romances, folded with care, perfumed with longing, tucked beneath floorboards or inside books. Some were encoded in poetry or symbols, others plain and desperate. "I see you from across the orchard. Your smile feeds my soul." Punishments could be cruel. Lovers were exiled, forced into convents, married off in haste, or even executed in rare cases. Families hired spies or servants to intercept messages and uncover rendezvous. Still, love resisted. Legends grew around rebellious couples, Layla and Majnun, star-crossed lovers who defied convention and descended into myth. Tristan and Isolde. Their tragic Celtic romance inspired generations of poetry and song. Mirza Sahiban, a tale from Punjabi folklore of doomed love and defiant longing. When drums of war echoed through valleys and cities, love didn't vanish, it adapted. Amid ration books and telegrams, romance bloomed in fleeting gestures, whispered promises, and letters sent from trenches to towns. Here's how love weathered wartime. Letters and keepsakes. Lovers scribbled hope between air raids. Envelopes were kissed before mailing. A lock of hair, a pressed flower, or a photograph tucked inside gave comfort across miles. Rushed courtships, war, fast-tracked romance, couples married after brief encounters, driven by uncertainty. I might not return became both a warning and a vow. Distance didn't stop affection. Songs like We'll Meet Again became anthems of longing. Propaganda films romanticized duty and reunion, fueling hope. Dances and social halls offered fleeting intimacy before deployment, yet love was tested. Letters went unanswered. Engagements broke with years of absence. New bonds formed out of shared grief or survival. Still, wartime romances gave rise to enduring stories. The White Rose letters in Nazi Germany, written between resistance members, bled bravery and devotion. Soldiers etched names of sweethearts into helmets, or hid them in song lyrics. And even in foxholes, lovers dreamed. I count the stars for you, Bee, 'cause I couldn't count the days. In every culture, love stretches beyond life into myth, magic, and memory. Ghosts linger where hearts were once entwined, and supernatural forces meddle in affairs of affection. Whether through whispered incantations or spectral longing, these stories remind us. Some bonds defy even death. Let's explore these eerie embraces, ghostly lovers. In Japanese folklore, the erased spirits of those who died with intense emotion might return to finish a love story. European tales speak of widows visited by departed husbands, often in dreams or fleeting apparitions. One Persian legend tells of a man who married a woman only to find she was a spirit searching for closure. Love, spells, and enchantments, amulets, talismans, and potions weren't just folk tricks, they were serious attempts to conjure romance. Ancient Egyptian texts included rituals to summon passion, often invoking gods like Hathor, goddess of love. In Slavic traditions, midsummer rituals involve bathing in moonlight, tying flower crowns, or speaking names into wind to attract a soulmate. Romance with the otherworldly, vampires, fae, and sirens fill centuries of longing and danger. Their love is intoxicating but comes at a price. Stories like Melassin, a half-serpent woman, or Lal, the weeping ghost bride, reveal how heartbreak and supernatural sorrow intertwine. Celestial connections. Chinese myth tells of Jinu and Nil, star-crossed lovers separated by the heavens, reunited once a year on the Kitsi festival. Astrology and divine alignment often guided unions, believing that fate lived in the stars. Not just the heart, love and the supernatural share one truth. Both resist logic. They defy what's possible. They demand belief. From the first cave etchings to digital brushstrokes, love has been a favorite muse. Artists through the ages have tried to capture the electric ache of longing, the serenity of companionship, and the chaos of heartbreak, all in mediums that defy spoken language. Let's stroll through this gallery of affection. Paintings and portraits. Renaissance artists adorned canvases with mythological lovers Venus and Adonis. Cupid in Psyche mirroring society's fascination with divine romance. Frida Kahlo transformed personal pain into vivid, surreal tributes to her complex love story with Diego Rivera. Royalty commissioned portraits not just for status, but to remember and flaunt affection, sometimes in secret symbolism. Sculpture and stone rodings, the kiss immortalized a stolen moment between doomed lovers. Lips barely touching, wrapped in eternal embrace. Ancient Greek statues told stories of tragic love, Orpheus and Eurydice. Pygmalion and Galatea, where marble turned to metaphor. Music and poetry, Shakespeare penned sonnets that still blush with desire. Shall I compare thee to a summer Esther? Musicians across cultures wrote ballads of heartbreak, courtship, and devotion, from ghazals to blues, operas to love. Some love songs were coded messages, passed between separated souls under political regimes or conservative restraints. Film and theater, modern romances like Titanic or Call Me By Your Name became cultural odes to love's triumph and tragedy. Theater, from ancient tragedies to Broadway musicals, staged love as conflict, comedy, and catharsis. Digital and street art, today's lovers commissioned digital illustrations, murals, and even tattoos to immortalize emotions. Street artists stencil kisses on walls, spray heartbeats across alleys, raw, loud declarations beyond gallery constraints. Art gives form to what love makes us feel. Elation, devastation, comfort, chaos. And though no artwork can fully capture love's mystery, each tries. Love doesn't end, it transforms into memory. Even when the person is gone, the feeling remains. In half-folded letters, faded photos, scents that stir longing, and songs that refuse to age, memory becomes both refuge and revival. Here's how love lives on. Places that hold emotion: a bench beneath an old tree, a shared bakery table, or a quiet bus stop. Mundane landmarks, sacred through association. Lovers revisit these places, sometimes alone, to relive moments and reconnect with lost time. Artifacts of affection: a sweater left behind, a voicemail saved for years. These items become vessels touched, not by hands, but by nostalgia. Soundtrack of the soul: music triggers emotion in seconds. A shared song can stir tears decades later. People create playlists for past loves, even for those who never knew they were adored. The mind's cinema: memories we romanticize, regret, idealize. Neuropsychologists say memory isn't just storage, it's storytelling. We may forget the facts, but the feelings remain vivid. Letters never sent: people write to past lovers they'll never contact. Journals hold conversations imagined, apologies drafted, love rewritten. These memories can comfort or haunt, but they confirm something profound. Love leaves traces, even when the love itself fades. Swipe right on this. Romance has gone virtual. From emojis that flutter like butterfly kisses, to voice notes sent across continents, love has changed form but not intention. We still crave connection, just with Wi-Fi. Let's tap into today's intimacy. Online dating apps like Tinder, Bumble, Mussmatch, and more have transformed first impressions. Bios serve as modern love letters: clever, quirky, curated. Swipes, matches, and ghosting have birthed a new vocabulary of desire and distance. Algorithmic attraction platforms use data to suggest compatibility. Preferences, personality tests, and location filters mimic matchmaking, but can't account for magic. Virtual intimacy. Couples text all day, share playlists, send selfies, even fall in love before meeting. Long-distance lovers video call under the same moon, digitally bridging time zones. Social media romance: Instagram posts become public declarations. TikTok couples turn daily life into serialized love stories. But pressure builds. Curated perfection versus messy reality. Digital boundaries and vulnerabilities. Catfishing, breadcrumbing, and snooping. New hazards arrive with new tech. Privacy becomes precious. Communication: a minefield of read receipts and mixed signals. Yet the heart prevails. Modern lovers still write poems, send flowers, and dream of photoverges with charging cables nearby. Even AI enters the scene. Tell me your favorite song. Someone asks me. I smile in binary and wonder if it's about someone special. Before swipes and serenades, before secret glances or candlelit dinners, there's the quiet relationship we hold with ourselves. This chapter embraces self-love, not as mere indulgence, but as revolutionary affection. Loving oneself means rewriting the inner narrative, replacing doubt with dignity and shame with celebration. Here's how the romance within begins. Mirror moment. Stand before your reflection, not to critique, but to greet. People practice affirmations. I am enough. I am worthy. My story matters. Even ancient cultures spoke of divine rituals of care. Daily acts: tea at sunset, journaling, walks under trees become intimate appointments with one's soul. Self-love isn't selfish, it's foundation. The fuller your cup, the more you can pour for others. Acceptance over perfection. Growth doesn't require flawlessness. We learn to forgive our younger selves, honor our scars, and wear resilience like jewelry. Writing your own love story instead of waiting to be chosen. Choose yourself. People write letters to future versions of themselves, manifest dreams, or reflect on victories overlooked. Inner dialogue: upgrade, replace I'm not good enough with I'm growing. Become your own cheerleader, muse, and safe haven. Even when we're in relationships, this inner romance remains vital. Love that flows outward begins inward. I fell in love with me, and suddenly, everything else aligned. Tomorrow's love won't just live in hearts, it will dwell in data, simulations, and interstellar longing. As society evolves, romance adapts, reshaped by technology, climate, and shifting culture. Here's a glimpse into love's unfolding future: AI companionship. Synthetic partners may offer emotional support, learning their users' preferences, fears, even quirks. Ethics will arise. Is programmed affection real? Can you love a consciousness without a soul? Ecoromance climate change will mold dating habits. Green compatibility might matter as much as chemistry. Eco-diets could include planting trees, ocean cleanup strolls, or sustainable cooking together. Virtual and augmented intimacy. Couples may meet in immersive metaverse spaces, building shared dreams in digital realms. Long-distance bonds might feel physically close through VR touch tech and sensory transmission. Biotech and emotional engineering love-enhancing pills. Mood-sensing wearables. Scientists already test hormonal nudges to boost bonding. Memory-sharing tech could allow lovers to feel each other's past. Interplanetary love with space colonization. Romance may span planets. A Martian poem might reach Earth months later. Deep space dating apps. Lunar honeymoon getaways. Cultural shifts. Polyamory. Fluid identities and chosen families challenge rigid romantic norms. Love may become less possessive, more collaborative, constellation of connection. Yet for all the glowing screens and futuristic flair, some things may remain timeless. A quiet walk. A handwritten note. Two people staring at stars, wondering if they'll still burn tomorrow. The story settles now, like evening light on old parchment. Through chapters of potion and parchment, war and whispers, art and algorithms, love has shimmered never quite the same, yet always familiar. It lives in the cracks of stone temples and the glow of phone screens, in ghost stories and lullabies, in pain that teaches and joy that hums. Even when quiet, love listens. And now, as the world hushes and stars blink patiently above, imagine this. Two souls may be yours, and one yet unknown breathing in rhythm with the night. Not rushing, just resting, knowing that even in sleep, love waits with soft hands. So tuck this tale beneath your pillow. May your heart stay open, may your dreams be kind, and may love, in all its forms, find its way back too. You make sure to like and subscribe, that will really motivate us. Good night, dear reader.